Okay, Chase, I forgot to set up the recorder during class, so I'm just gonna give you a quick mini overview. So I hope you're watching, so you're not wasting my time, okay? So we talked about, we'll watch the two videos that you can look online on the Spanish-American War, and we wanted the kids to look at what caused
Munson
it,
family to the front door, please.
what were the events of
Hand
the war,
chimes to the front, to the music room, please.
and what were the results of the war. So the two direct causes of the war was the fact that the USS Maine blew up. Now what wasn't on the video was the second cause of the Delome letter. That was a letter written by the Mexican or the Spanish ambassador that was intercepted, and that basically it criticized President McKinley. Even though the criticism was what maybe a lot of the American public would criticize, the fact that it came from a Spaniard is what angered the American public. And then the two newspaper publishers over here, William Hearst and Joseph Pulitzer, who had the two newspapers in New York at the time, and they were competing for readership to sell newspapers. So what they did is what became known as yellow journalism, which is also in the chapter, where they exaggerated their stories so people would want to read the paper. So that was one of the leading causes of the Spanish-American War, indirect cause, but it definitely was a cause because it caused people to have a negative view of the Spanish. And then other causes, of course, is imperialism, those that said we should be taking over these other countries. And also the Monroe Doctrine, which said, we'll stay out of Europe's affairs if they stay out of ours. And ours meant the Western Hemisphere. So that's why Cuba being in the Western Hemisphere, the U.S. said Spain shouldn't be there in the first place because they're a European nation. The two major events that were shown in the movies, of course, the first battle, great victory for George Dewey, who later became an admiral because of it, was the Spanish fleet was smashed in Manila Bay. Again, demonstrated the power of the U.S. Navy. And then the second major event in the war was the Battle of San Juan Hill. Well, that introduced the Rough Riders, of which Teddy Roosevelt gained fame. Even though he wasn't the leader of it, he got great fame because of that and later propelled him into the presidency. The results of the war, one, Cuba was free because Congress passed a Teller Amendment which said we didn't have any intention of taking over Cuba, it would be free. Although they did pass later on the Platt Amendment, which basically gave U.S. Army and military control until we felt that they could pretty much take care of themselves. So in a way, we maintained control because of this for quite a few years. Then we purchased Puerto Rico, the Philippines, and later Guam. So we got all of these countries who later became territories of the U.S. We're going to talk about the Philippines later on, which turns out to be even worse than the whole Spanish-American War, the fighting that went on in the Philippines. It's called the Splendid Little War, not because nobody died, because many people died. Although most people, over the 5,000 some people that died, the majority of those that died from disease like malaria and yellow fever. Battle deaths were even lower than those things. It was called the Splendid Little War because it lasted such a short time. Started in April, May, June, July. By August, it's pretty much over. So basically one summer. And it propels the U.S. into becoming more of a power in the world. So that's the key part to it. So that's kind of what we talked about in a nutshell in class. Hope things are going well for you at home. If you got any questions, just send me an email.